let's talk SaasHoles here. If you're specifically in SaaS and you have a SaaS product selling to like sales, for instance, if there is not a video on your website that I can look at in less than 5 minutes to actually physically see what it does, not to hear all the fucking wonderful things it's going to do for me, but I literally want to see it. If that isn't on your website, I move off of your website within seconds, because there's 5 other companies that do what you do, and I'll just go watch one of their videos because I want to skip that line. I want to check off the box that says yes. So video, I think, is massively important on the front end from a marketing standpoint, just to get people. Now, what you should do is section it off. So it's almost like, hey, when you come to our website, do a self-qualification. Are you an individual? Like in our world, are you an individual sales rep? Are you a team lead? Are you an executive? Well, click here. And based on that, this is what our shit does for you. And based on this is what so that's just marketing. But to your point of like touch points and how to use a video throughout the sales process, one, I think putting video as your first touch is kind of weird. I just do. I think getting a random ass video from some random ass kid. Plus, let's talk security now. When COVID hit, security ratcheted through the roof. So cybersecurity, firewalls, all that stuff through the roof. So you're going to put links and attachments in your first and second email. The likelihood is they're not even going to get through. Okay. Video is meant to be a name to a face. It can show me as a person. Okay. So it's meant to be personal. It's meant to be empathetic. It's meant to show that I know what I'm talking about. So usually, and you asked about the sequence here, what I'll usually do these days is I'll get a list of my top 25 accounts and the executives in those accounts that I want to follow. First thing that I do is I go follow them on LinkedIn and I go see if they're active in any way, shape, or form. So I'll comment, and I'm not just doing like the comments on there. So like fire and great, like I'm actually putting a meaningful comment into the post, like maybe asking a question or two. When I do that, I immediately after that hit them with a LinkedIn request, and I don't personalize the LinkedIn request. We're getting a 5 times higher acceptance rate when we don't personalize than when we do. Because if you personalize, you're effectively forcing me to look at you, right? So now I have to look at you, like, who is this person? Oh shit, it's a sales rep. I don't care how non-salesy it is. Probably not. But if you just hit the request, I might just hit yes. So now the key to that is you and I are now connected. And this is where this comes in and where I think a lot of people can use to help evolve towards video. Now I'm going to go out. I'm not going to pitch slap you. The last thing that you want to do is as soon as somebody accepts your invite is to pitch slap them and tell them all the fucking things of how great you are. Like that's the fastest way to get disconnected. So I'm going to go to your website. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to make a phone call, send an email to you about some stuff that I found and all that other stuff. Right. And then probably the 4th or 5th touch, I'm coming back on LinkedIn and I'm doing a LinkedIn video. And for those people who don't know, right, LinkedIn video, you don't have to pay for it. It's on the app. You can only do it on the app and you can only do it if you're one connected. But then I'm going to do a video and I'm going to say something like this, Pete. Hey, Pete, what's going on? A couple of weeks back, you posted something that got my attention and that's why I connected with you. And as I learned more about your business, I actually noticed here on LinkedIn, you're hiring a whole bunch of SDRs. And I'm curious, we train SDRs and, we help them get going, ramped right out of boot camp with our training. And we work with some cool companies. Just thought it'd be worth a conversation. You hit me back, Pete, and let me know if you'd be open to it. Like that right there. That gets me about a 35% response rate if I do that right. Now, there's tools like Vidyard and all that other stuff that you can do. The tip I'll make on those is, please, I beg you, if you're listening to this, do not follow their best practices of the fucking whiteboard bullshit where it superimposes your name, pretending like it's personalized. And then when you lift it up, it's like, hey, thank you so much for, you know what I mean? Like, again, video should be personalized. 2 small ones after though, my favorite usage of video, objection handling and delivering proposals. Objection handling. Say we're middle of the sales process. You send me an email later on that says, hey, John, we got to push this till Q4, or, we've gone in a different direction. Obviously you want to call them immediately and be like, hey, what's up? Like what happened here? They're not going to pick up that phone. And what are you going to write? This really well thought out, articulate email that's going to hold them to task? Bullshit. Open up a video and be like, hey, Pete, look, I got your email, man. I get it. Look, priorities change, timelines change, all that stuff. I'm a little confused here though. You had said earlier that your main priorities were bang, bang, and boom, and your timeline was this. And the fact that if you don't hit that timeline, this is the impact to your business. So look, I understand things change. Would you mind just giving me 5 minutes so we can get on a call so I can understand what's changed? And look, if it's not the right time, it's not the right time, but I just want to make sure I'm working with the right information here. That right there gets me like a 10% response rate on objections versus a 0% response rate through email. And the last one, KG, before is delivering proposals. Obviously, we want to deliver proposals to power, right? So you have your proposal, and you're dealing with non-power. You want to get to power, right? They won't let you. right? Awkward questions, piss off your point of contact, whatever. So then what you do is this, you light up a video and you bring up your proposal on the screen and you go like this and say, so it's, say it's Jim and Sarah. Jim's my main point of contact. Sarah's the executive. I go to Jim. Hey, Jim, thank you so much. Look, instead of just sending you the PDF, I wanted to walk you through this proposal real quick. Oh, and by the way, if you wanted to send this up to Sarah, feel free. And Sarah, by the way, if you're watching this, just want to let you know, Jim has been fantastic through the sales process. Man, he's been great to deal with, kiss his ass a little bit. And then you just don't go through the details of the proposal, but then you go like this, you go, all right, so here's what you said, what our priorities, and there's the parts of our solution that map to that. You can look through the details later, but I just really wanted to reinforce what you told me and how I constructed this. So feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Now what happens is you send it to Jim. You watch how long Jim watched it, if he watched it. Then because you just did Jim's job for him by presenting it to Sarah, he forwards it up to Sarah. Now you're sitting in front of the executive. And so those are some use cases of video. If you're not comfortable on video right now, I don't know what you're doing. I don't care if you're ugly. I mean, like I got a face for radio, right? So like most of us do. Get on the fucking thing. Like you don't, and it doesn't, and the more, authentic it is, the better, right? Don't, I call it one cut videos. Don't do a video and screw up and stop and try to get it perfect. Fuck up on the video. Be like, I'm sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. This is my first time doing video here, but I just really wanted to make sure I got this point across. And if you do that, the people will respond in spades. Hey everybody, this is John Barrows, CEO of JB Sales, and I'm here with the SaasHoles, ready to have a very interesting conversation to see how much of a SaasHole I am compared to them.
Welcome to SaasHoles, with a combined 100 years of making interesting decisions. Jamie, Justin, KG, and myself, Pete, are dedicated to helping sales leaders or aspiring sales leaders accelerate revenues with our no bullshit approach to sales leadership strategies and tactics. Please subscribe to our YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Today, our guest is John Barrows. John is the CEO of JB Sales and author of the sales book for kids, I Want to Be in Sales When I Grow Up. I should have read that. He has provided sales training and consulting services to some of the world's fastest growing companies like Salesforce.com, Google, LinkedIn, Dropbox, and many others. His previous experience spans all aspects of sales at every level, from making 400 calls a week as an inside sales rep to the VP of sales at his first startup that was later sold to Staples. Before we get to John, we got some Patreon love to give out to our business supporters. Unlock key account growth with the Man Farm Smart software to bring account planning and relationship intelligence into your CRM, making key account management practice data driven, predictable, and scalable. Request a demo now at demandfarm.com. Ask for Iron Man. Hey, KG.
What?
You know Brent Keltner?
I've heard of that guy. I think he's written some books. Maybe he's been on our show. I don't know.
He's got this master class, Grow Revenue Faster by Making the Shift from Product-Driven Selling to Authentic Conversations. How can you not have an authentic conversation?
I think we're going to have an authentic conversation, about 10 minutes here.
Oh, outstanding. Hey, Winalytics, build the revenue organization you want. Request a free 60-minute growth consultation at winalytics.com. Ask for Brent and say KG sent you. Ask about the masterclass. We would also like to say, hey, Aaron J. and Trent S., thank you for your support. It's a real ego boost. Hey, looking, software developer manager, 10 years experience, C, Pound, MS, SQL, Angular, React, Azure, Cloud, Ask.NET, Core, also Node, Angular web development. Email Pete at SaasHoles.net. Recruiters, I got a hot one for you. Again, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Each subscribe, I'm telling you, it's like a magic fairy dust that turns 30 viewers into 3,000, or in John's case, over 6,000. And if you have the means, please support us on patreon.com/SaasHoles. Whether it's buying us a beer or helping us prepare you for your budget meeting, it's better we beat you up than your boss. Okay, KG,
Yes, Pete. I haven't even looked at what the joke is today.
Because I don't put it anymore. You guys suck.
Now you're gonna surprise me. I like it. What's up, Pete?
Carnie. Hey man, I went to the boat store the other day. Got this hell of a boat. I couldn't resist it. They had a hell of a sale going on. All right, we got. That's it. All right, shout outs, KG.
So bad.
All right.
I thought I gave you a good joke.
Yeah, I got you a good joke right here.
Yeah, exactly.
KG, let's give some shout outs.
I got 3 shout outs here for you. Congratulations to Lori Harmon for starting a new position as global head of business development at Cloudflare. That's a kind of a big name there. And then congratulations to Corinne Rice for being promoted to senior manager international field operations at Procore here in Los Angeles. See, there is actually some SaaS here in Los Angeles. And then happy birthday to my friend Lauren Weiner, who is one of the best. Did you say that right? Lauren Weiner, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she is one of the best salespeople that's ever worked for me, enterprise account executive, and she's looking for new opportunities in the next couple of months. So if anybody is looking for the best account executive, that's ever worked for me, Lauren Weiner. There we go, looking for work.
So you got a guy.
I got a gal.
All right, Carnie, I see you put something in here. Thanks.
Yeah,
man.
so
finally.
Sorry, a little bit late in putting these in there, but Daniel Sanders, I want to give him a shout out for being promoted.
Let me guess, he worked at Flexera.
Yeah, global revenue operations at Flexera. So I wanted to give him a shout out.
Oh, all right.
Good guy.
Hey, Rachel Kiefner, new position, account executive at Comey. Dominic Pasta shared about starting a new position, enterprise account executive at Sprinkler. Bethany Burgess, PHR, 4 years at Salesforce. That's another person at Salesforce we trained. I should get a commission. Brian Carrillo, 1 year at Aploy. Is that how you say it, KG? Aploy?
Aploy.
Hey, Carnie, you remember Leslie Martin?
Oh, yeah, I know Leslie.
She got promoted to executive vice president. Boom, boom, boom. Technology, a career builder. I will applaud her. She's old school. She's headhunter.net old school.
Oh, yeah.
And John Bradshaw, 13 years at allthetopbananas.com. Hillary Lewis, 2 years at DocuSign. KG, how do you know John Barrows? He's pretty big. I got this interference in my ear. How do you know John Barrows?
I met John, of course. I met him in Boston at an Open View Venture Partners. I don't even know what you call it. It was sort of like a networking event.
Yeah, like a little get together with their portfolios and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, multi-day, and I just this was 2013, 2012, yeah. John. So 10 years ago. Yeah. And I just loved his, no nonsense style, dare I say masshole style of just sort of like,
I own it.
Calling it like it is. And I just had mad respect for John, and your business has gone crazy, since then, obviously, John, but thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Is as I always ask, like, hey, to prep for this, I ask, can you swear? Look, some aren't cool with it because their audience, whatever, and others are like, no, let it fly. I'm like, all right, and I have a lot more funds on the one that I can let it fly because being from Boston and being a masshole, the F-bomb is just part of the vocabulary. It's a verb, it's a noun, it's an adjective, you name it. And so it'll come out once in a while, but I'll try to keep it, I'll keep it somewhat intact.
Say hi to your mother.
Hey, hi, your mother. Yeah. The funny thing is I used to talk like that, by the way. I had to change my accent because when I went down to school at University of Maryland, nobody could understand me. I mean, I would be the kid like, hey, yeah, kid, I swear to God, let's go to the party and drink some fucking beers. I'm going to fucking punch you right in the fucking mouth. Like I would literally talk like that. And people would be like, what did you just say? I mean, I was like the party trick at like people like, come over, listen to this kid from Boston talk. All right, never mind. So I spent an entire semester pronouncing every single word that came out of my mouth. And I felt like I sound like an idiot, but it eventually beat it out of me. That's it. When I'm back
so you're saying diction's important. Speaking of diction, Carnie, if we're interrupting your lunch, let me know. Do you have a question for John?
Well, no, I was going to say, I walked by Brad Stevens yesterday.
Yeah.
Nice. He was getting coffee and I saw Jason Tatum. I'm rooting for the Celtics to turn this around. I was on a
I
flight.
sure as hell hope so, man.
I was on a flight going and watching the game on a flight with a bunch of Californians that were screaming and yelling. I couldn't fucking stand it anymore. I'm like, I didn't care, but now I do. Go Boston.
There you go. I love it.
God's
Well, hopefully they can turn it around. I don't know if they got the killer instinct in them though. That's my only fear. This is a great team, but they're not mature enough yet to put people away. Yeah. And so we'll see. I think they'll win tonight. I think it's going to game 7. We'll see what happens though.
Brad Stevens looks like he's 25 in person.
Oh, always. He's always looked like he's 25.
Is he the Butler guy?
Yeah, he's the general manager now. So I saw him walking with his wife. I was kind of creepy following him. And then
really?
I said, all right, I'll let him go.
Yeah. So John, KG and I were talking before the show. You know, I did my 5 minutes of research on you like any good sales rep would. And I see this nice produced video of Salesforce giving you kudos. And I'm like, how the hell did he get into Salesforce? And KG was sort of telling me the story. How did you make that happen?
Salesforce is my biggest customer, longest standing. When I was working at Basho, we actually used our approach to get into Salesforce. So the approach back then, which was unique back then, was doing a very hyper-personalized email to the senior executive about something we found about their news or their annual reports or something like that, and being super hyper-personalized and going all the way to the top and getting referred down and going from there. And we sent one to George, Hugh, and Frank Vander Derder. I always forget his last name. Just basically the head of sales and the head of marketing. And they both got down to this guy, Doug Landis, who's a good friend of mine, actually lives in LA. And Kevin, KG, you know him. And I was talking to him this morning, as a matter of fact. And Doug and I became really good friends. 15 years later, I'm still training them. They're now a sponsor of ours as well. And there was an opportunity, and I didn't think much of it. They were like, hey, do you want to be part of this new series that we're doing? It's called Think Outside the Quota. I was like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. And I honestly, because of so many things going on, I'm like, sure. They're like, show up at this place in Boston at this time and bring a couple of changes of clothes and stuff. I'm like, okay, no problem. I show up. There's like 40 production people there. They've rented out the entire hotel with the roof deck overlooking the city. And it was a full day thing. And I'm going up against, I think they did a series with like 4 or 5 different people. One was Tony Hawk. One was Damon John. One was the CRO of Forbes. And I was sitting there, I'm like, you're putting me next to him? Like, what the fuck? Like, are you serious right now? Like, holy shit. So anyways, it was a really cool experience. And, Salesforce has always been great to me. We've always had a fantastic relationship. So I'm looking forward to continuing it.
How many salespeople at Salesforce do you think you have trained?
Oh, thousands. I mean, 12, let's just do easy math here. Probably at least, 30 times 10, 20. At least 5,000, at least 4,000 over the years, which is why, half of my business is built off of sales reps who worked at Salesforce during my prime time and then have gone to be VP of sales someplace else. And they call me up and they're like, hey, we need your stuff. Come over here. So I'd say 6 degrees of separation, Kevin Bacon type of thing. I'd say, our customers are 1-2 degrees of separation from Salesforce at most.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
What was this email that you sent? You didn't pull selling the veto, did you, little Tony Parinello?
I didn't send it. Full disclosure here. One of the reps did. I would pay a lot of money for that email right now, and they deleted it off this. Like when the company went belly up, they deleted it off the server thing and all that other stuff. So I don't have it, but it was effectively, peeling through their annual report, talking about something Benioff was talking from a strategy standpoint and how we could help their teams. And, so it's the Basho or the WYWYN now email is very similar to selling the veto, but super crunched down into a, 2 scrolls on an iPhone type of thing. And the idea was peeking up and then getting referred down, not saying I want to talk to you, but then the whole obligation of the person below. That's lost a lot of effectiveness over the years because people have bastardized it. And they C-suite doesn't want to talk to anybody, and getting referred down isn't necessarily as good as it used to be because people have abused it so much. But man, 10 years ago, I got Mark Hurd to respond to me. I got Benioff to respond to me. I got, some big, huge players that you would never, as a sales rep think, holy shit, these guys are responding to me with this stupid email. And so it was a great way to get in there, but I'd still pay money for that.
So Tony Parinello's out of business now is what you're saying?
Look, I think a lot of people are going out of business right now because they're not evolving with the times. So yeah.
All right. We'll edit that on post. Yes, Carnie.
So I have a question. So one of the statements I often make, especially on the SaasHoles, but I make to a lot of people I'm talking to, is that sales training and enablement seems to be one of the most overlooked areas in companies. A lot of times I feel like the sales training aspect is more of a how do you do something at the company as opposed to, or here's our sales methodology, but not really teaching them on how to sell and the command of message or whatever process you want to go through. And therefore, these mature companies, it ends up almost being like a admin, this is where the contracts are. This is how you walk into the building. This is how you leave the building. Would you agree? And I feel like that's the worst situation that can be out there, and it's the most damaging to the entire sales organization. That's one of my takes. I just wanted to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've evolved quite a bit, right? I mean, it used to be the default. It used to be like, okay, almost every organization starts with onboarding because they're growing so fast and they're like, oh shit, we need somebody to actually control this for a little bit. Hey, Sally, you're pretty good with process and stuff. Could you be our sales enablement department? And it's one person who's carrying 75 different bags with no funding, no budget, nothing. And they're taught to build something while they're riding the bike. Like that's the scenario that most startups as they grow. And by patchworking that, they kind of get to a certain point. But then the problem is, and this is a tip for everybody out there, because it happened to me, is they get to a certain point where executives now say, okay, we need to take this seriously now, right? Because they've hit a wall or whatever it is. Then they go hire the VP of enablement who's been there, done that. They give them a decent sized budget and they let him go. Then they let him run. And the person who got him there is now supposed to work with them. So for anybody listening right now, if you're in enablement or any position for that matter in a startup, if you were a VP of something that got to a company to a certain level and then they hire an SVP of something, you are getting fired, period. That is the corporate nice way of getting you out without having to fire you, because what's going to happen is you're just going to be pissed because you're going to have to transition all that knowledge to them. They're going to get all the credit and the budget, and you're going to be sitting there mad, and then you're eventually going to quit within the year. So they fix the glitch by hiring an SVP. So if that ever happens, they're going to present it to you as a learning experience, and we just need to whatever. Fuck you, they just fired you. So get your resume ready and go find something else and tell them to pound sand. But to your question, Carnie, I think that it evolves from there. And I think companies are seeing much earlier now that they're investing in enablement sooner because they realize what a strategic thing it should be within the organization. But then it's how that SDR or how that enablement team is constructed and what they train on. And unfortunately, to your point, it's a lot of the what, not the how, right? It's like, okay, you need to qualify, you need to do this, you need to do this. But what does it mean to be a sales professional? Like a lot of these kids were pulling right out of school with no training in whatsoever. And we give them a slide deck and a pitch and tell them in a bunch of phone numbers and and so it's like, go. And these kids are, and I have this whole thing on the mentality of kids today coming out of school, like Gen X, most of us are kind of in the Gen X range, right? We were the last group to actually figure it out when we were kids, right? Like, I don't know about you guys, but when I was bored in the house, my mom would literally kick me out of the house and say, go fucking do something, just be home by dinner, right? That type of thing. And I would go break things and burn stuff down and whatever it is, but I'd figure stuff out. Now today, and I know this with my daughter because I'm watching it, every minute of every kid's day is structured. So they go from this school to this hour to this hour. They have soccer practice from this hour to this hour. They have iPad for 30 minutes. So literally every minute of their day has been structured. Then they go and by the way, they're taught to the test. So MCAS, all that shit, right? So there's no critical thinking anymore. So now they get out into the real world and they look at guys like us and they say, what do we do? And we tell them, we'll figure it out, right? And they look at us sideways like, what do you mean figure it out? Like, tell me what to do. And the reaction from us is, well, you don't know what to do? I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. Here's a script. Here's a pitch, here's a whatever. And a kid who came out of a structured environment, taught to the test, given a script, will read the script. There'll be no context to it. There'll be no business acumen to it. There'll be no development to it. So Carnie, to your point, we're stuffing this stuff down their throats in a very manufacturing oriented process, like, the widget stamper type of thing, but we're not giving them the critical thinking of the understanding of why they're selling what they sell, who they're selling to, why it should matter, all that stuff, which I think is critically important.
It almost seems like we're dumbing. What you just said there was interesting. I almost feel like what you said is we're dumbing down the best to bring up the bottom, and everyone then is playing off a script in their life and then trying to apply it to the work.
The fact that you say that, look, our daughter, here in Massachusetts, we have a really good school system here in Massachusetts, top of the country, basically, right? And what we found out was, now putting my daughter into the school system, They've done exactly that. When I was in school, they had advanced placement. You could take advanced courses if you were advanced, right? There was support for that. But remember, No Child Left Behind?
Yeah.
Conceptually, I like that. Conceptually, I don't want to leave kids behind. But what they've done is they've taken all the money out of the groups that excel and stopped supporting them, because they're basically like, they're smart kids, they don't need that much help. We need to focus all on the kids that need that, that aren't the smart ones. So effectively, we're dumbing down everybody to an average that is not doing us as a favor as society goes.
I love your commentary on that, by the way, John, and going back to, how we're onboarding reps. And I feel strongly that we definitely need to have structure and expectations, because I've been part of an onboarding process where it's like, there's your laptop, there's your monitor, and it's in a box. And hey, it's part of the culture that you build your desk. And like, that's literally been me, and like I've had to go through that. And so I do feel strongly that when you're onboarding new reps, there has to be structure and expectations. But which I think is what you're saying. But I also agree with you 100%. I'm dealing with a client right now where they just onboarded new reps last week. And they're like, we're doing the role playing exercise, and they're checking the boxes by asking the questions, but they're just checking the boxes. And so we're not going to put them on the phones yet, because they don't seem like they care. They don't seem like they're curious, and they don't have their own stories to tell that go along with that. And I think that transition to like being able to internalize the words that are coming out of your mouth, so it's an actual business conversation. Like, how the fuck do we get there?
You throw away the scripts, you throw away all that bullshit, and you hire differently too. I made this mistake. So I worked for Jack Welch to get his online MBA program off the ground a little while ago, him and Susie, right? But he's always been a business idol of mine. And back when my first startup, the one we sold to Staples, when we were 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, like everybody was fired up. Everybody was going above and beyond and all that other stuff, right? When we got to 50, like literally the number 50, I vividly remember having that 51st person that we hired. They just did their job. They had no passion for it. They just showed up and did it. And I remember like going to one of the Jack Welch Q&As, and it's 1,000 people in the stadium, and you can stand, and all he does is do Q&As. He doesn't like actually present anything. And so I stood up and I had my question. I said, Jack, 50 people, you talk so much about passion and I'm like, and I asked a dumb question, which was, how do you instill your passion on somebody else to get them to be that bought in? And he goes, you're looking at it all. So in front of 1,000 people, he said, you're looking at it all the wrong way. He's like, you can't transfer your passion to somebody else. You have to hire that. You can teach skill. You can teach technique. You can teach process. You cannot teach drive. You cannot teach passion. No. That moment changed my entire perspective on how I hire. Now
you can't teach curiosity. You can't teach curiosity.
That. So I now, when I ask you, like when I'm interviewing you, one of my questions is, what are you passionate about? And by the way, I could give a shit what you're passionate about. I care how you describe what you're passionate about. Because if you're like, oh, I really enjoy customers and working with customers to make sure that they really get all the services that they need and really get supported the way they want. Like, fuck,
that just screams bullshit. That's
like,
bullshit.
Exactly. Like, that's your passion. You should, or holy shit, the fucking Celtics are in the goddamn finals right now. Like, did you see them at the beginning of the fucking season? They were absolutely horrible. And all of a sudden, Ime kicked them right in the ass. And holy shit. And Jason Tatum, man, I hope he grows a spine and drops 40 tonight. Because if we don't, we're going to lose the fuck. Like, if you just, even though the Celtics have nothing to do with this conversation, the fact that you showed me you got some juice. Now my job as a manager is to take that juice and give it over here and help you funnel that. And it's why I don't care about product. I wish companies would take product and stuff it up their ass for at least a month before they give it to the rep. What you should be teaching the rep in that first month is the why. Why are they here? Sales is the transfer of enthusiasm, period. That's what it is. If you do not believe in what you're selling, then go fucking find something else to do. All right? Because
John, talk to me.
I absolutely love that. The transfer of enthusiasm. I just love that.
There's no transfer of enthusiasm. You got to fucking hire it. If your recruiting sucks and your first line manager, whoever is signing off on that person, and these people come in and they don't have a vision board, goals, or a reason why, or they need the money to transfer it for something else, you're fucked. You can have John Barrows all day long.
No matter.
You'd be like, fuck you, John Barrows. I don't need the money.
Here's one for you. Some kid asked me this, and this is how I start a lot of my trainings these days, because I do like 200 reps and I usually do a Q&A at the end. And this time I was in person, this was a few years back, and the kid asked, "Hey, John, I saw your logo slide and you train basically all of our competitors, right? So how do we differentiate?" And my answer was 10, 60, 30. And he goes, "What?" I go, 10% of you in this room who care and are good are going to take this content and run with it, right? Because you know it's good and it'll help you accelerate. 60% of you are going to do something different because it's easy and it makes sense. 30% of you ain't going to do shit different. So the question isn't how many people can I train? The question is, what percentage do you want to be in? That's the point. I call it the give a shit factor. If you do not give a shit, there's nothing I can do. I play in the realm of give a shit up to unconscious competence. So, the whole consciously competent and that whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. So you start a job, you don't know what you don't know. So you're unconsciously incompetent. Then you move to consciously incompetent. And then you move to conscious competence, but then you move to unconscious competence. You just do. Okay. That's where techniques come into play, right? But you have to give a shit first. Because if you don't give a shit, I don't care how much techniques or tips or templates I give you, it's not going to, you'll get some mediocre results, but you'll never crack through. But once you genuinely give a shit about the client, about the profession, about business acumen, about, curiosity, once you care, I'll show you all these techniques that you can use to be able to apply that so that one day you can reach this level of unconscious competence where you don't need any of those techniques. You don't need any of that shit. You're just in a conversation, but you got to get to the give a shit factor first. And I don't know how I can get you there other than modeling what give a shit looks like.
So if you were analyzing a sales team, like I've been at other companies called Skill Will, right? Yeah. How would you go about ranking what you should do with each of those salespeople? When should you level up? When is they have the will, but they don't have the skill? And how long should you wait for them to get the skill up? Or when should you be sort of maneuvering around that if you had to go through each of those steps? They have the skill, but don't the will. They don't have the will or the skill. They don't have the will, but all the skill.
Oh, and by the way, guys, you got to get rid of the bottom 20% of your sales force. Riffs.
Well, this is where you do force rank them, right? And this is a little Jack Welch, he's a little draconian with his top rating and everything. But Carnie, I think it would start with just implementing a coaching program and seeing who adapted to the coaching program, right? In the sense that, so it would be a blanket thing. I wouldn't go through and test every single, maybe there's some tests out there, by the way, that shows how coachable you are and all these different things. And, that's going to give me some data points, but I would actually create an initiative to create a positive vibe on this whole thing to say, you know what, we're going through a coaching initiative and here's the structure of the coaching initiative. We're going to find each one of you. We're going to talk about strengths and weaknesses. We're going to map out what I think your strengths and weaknesses are. And I want you to tell me what you think your strengths and weaknesses are. And we're going to come up with a coaching plan here, right? And there's going to be some fundamentals across the board that everybody has to do, but then you are going to get your individual ones, and we're going to put some tracking things in place here. And if you take my coaching and you apply my coaching, and I can see that you're doing it and you're asking questions and that type of stuff, your results might not be there, but the fact that I can tell that you're coachable will put you on the list of I'm keeping you. And this, by the way, this is what I used to do with interviews. I would go through the interview process, but then I would do a cold call exercise. And what I would do is that, hey, whatever you sold beforehand, I want you to go in the other room. I'm your perfect target audience. All you have to do is get a meeting with me. So let's just run through that play, right? And some would do better than others, whatever. Then and the point of it wasn't to see how good they went. The point of it was to see if they took my coaching, because then they would come in. I would give them very direct feedback. You had a terrible intro. You developed rapport for too long. You didn't ask for a next step. Boom. Now I want you to go back in that room. I want you to call me selling what like Mike at the time, Thrive Networks. They don't know the details. They don't know the product of Thrive Networks, but they know IT services, help computers. All you're looking to do is get the meeting. Don't oversell this shit, but apply what I told you. If the ones went in there and they applied what I had told them to that, and those would be on the top of the list as far as people that I was paying attention to. If they did the same fucking thing beforehand, I'd be like, all right, thanks for coming in. See you later. And the interview would be over.
One of the most common questions that my my clients ask me, CEOs of companies that are looking to build and scale their sales teams, John, is how do you motivate your reps? How do you motivate salespeople? And I've gotten this question and given it a lot of thought over the last 20 some odd years or whatever. And I've come to the conclusion the answer goes something like this, John.
You fire them.
Yeah, no, you don't. You
Jeez,
can't. You can't motivate people. Okay, they're either motivated or they're not. What your responsibility is to hire motivated people and put them into motivating environments. And so, one of the things you're pointing out through this exercise, which, by the way, role playing exercises suck.
Yeah.
And the reason why they suck, though, most of the time, people in the interview process, they want to do these role playing exercises, John, and they think that they have to do it, but they do it without a goal in mind.
Right.
And what you were just describing was a very, very specific goal. Are they coachable or not? And I love it. They don't know anything about the product. They who knows what their sales skills are, but they come in, they stumble, they screw up. You give them coaching, send them back out, and then have them come back in. And if they can level up in those 30 seconds, you can check a box on coachability, which better be the goal for the role playing exercise. Are they coachable or are they not? You can't take somebody who's not coachable and make them coachable.
Well, it's just like you can't help somebody that doesn't want help. So for instance, like, I don't know about you guys, I got friends who have addiction problems or whatever it is. Like, you can't help an alcoholic, for instance, until an alcoholic comes to you and says, I need fucking help. Right? You could do all these different things to get them stop being an alcoholic, but until they come to the point where they care, they give a shit of getting better, there's nothing you can do for them. I mean, look, and I have a similar talk track, KG, of motivation versus inspiration. I can inspire you all day long, but unless you're internally motivated. So, and I use the example of like Tony Robbins, right? Like Tony Robbins, he used to do that, you walk across the coals, right? And, you burn your feet, and he stopped doing it because he got sued a couple of times. But when you're at Tony Robbins, one of these conventions, right? You're sitting there and you're looking at those coals being like, I ain't fucking running across those. You're out of your goddamn mind, right? But then Tony Robbins' huge head is in your face. So you could do it. You could do it. And you got 5,000 people around you screaming your name. You could do it. You could do it. And you're like, fuck, all right, fuck it. I'll do it. And you just run across those coals and you're like, oh, Tony Robbins is amazing. Like, holy crap. Like, you did it. But then the question is next week, when those coals are still there, Tony Robbins' big fat head isn't yelling in your face, and you don't have 5,000 people behind you screaming your name. Are you going to run across those coals? And the answer to that for the majority of our population, unfortunately, is no.
John, it's 10-30-60. You said it yourself. It's 10-30-60. 10% of those Tony Robbins people are going to be freaking fired up and make a change.
Yep.
And all the rest will just be sort of like, it's a blip, or they'll do freaking nothing. That's human nature.
It's human nature.
It's human
John,
nature.
Now, I'm old school sales. Okay. Fax machine, door knocking.
Yep, been there, my friend.
Okay.
Yep.
So now, video is coming to play. Mm-hmm. All right. And you better have your shit together when somebody's ready to buy, because they want to make a decision. They know what they want. They want to make a decision right away. And you better have something that can explain what you do when I go online. That wasn't the case 15 years ago. Okay, you had to pay sales reps to create interest. Now the interest is there. Now it just needs to be closed. How is video coming into play, number one? And then number two, what is the touch process? Email versus phone calls versus over a 6 week period? What do you tell your people?
All right, so there's a lot to unpack there. With video, I agree with you. That's why we went from the evolution of sales, right? Xerox, where I used to work, invented solution selling, because it flipped from nobody had information and we held all the cards before the internet, right? Before the internet, you literally had no idea what I had. So I could show up and I could pitch you. I could say, here's my shit. What do you think? And you'd be like, wow, I've never seen that before. Go, right? Internet comes along, holy shit, throws the power into it, right? Now with the trend that's going on with product-led growth and the consumerization of sales and all this other stuff, like the Amazon effect, and if you cannot articulate your value proposition in a very succinct way to that audience, you're dead.
Well, no, it's real simple. I mean, what you, with respect to the objection handling, if you leave a voicemail, all you got the voice. You write an email, it could appear to be nasty, even though you're not trying to be nasty. There's so much lost in translation. Using the video for objection handling, I think is genius. Because it has all that context there, the visual, and you can hear the words that are coming out that you wrote an email and sound like you're being an asshole. But when you do it with as
Right.
Pete says
Concerns.
raw authenticity. It's cool.
83557. Dr. Albert Moravian's communication model. 8% of the way that we read emotions in people is based on the words that we use. 35% is the tonality and how we use those words. And 57% is body language. That's why phone is better than email, but that's why video is better than phone.
You do your program, and then you leave, and then you got a sales trainer, or you got some sales manager that's got to carry out your wisdom.
I mean,
how do you get somebody to oversee to make sure they're carrying out your process?
Nobody wants to pay for that. So let's put it that way. I don't, because nobody wants to pay for what it would actually take because what you're doing there is you're asking me to do your job. So my answer to that question, this is why I'm in training and not consulting. I'm like the grandparents. I come and I play with the kids and I get the fuck out. The direct line managers are the ones, and so when somebody asks me, John, what's your reinforcement plan? My direct question to them is, I don't know where your manager is going to be in the training. And if your managers are going to be sitting in the back, checking their emails or off camera on Zoom, then you can throw your money at me. It'll be a waste. You know what I mean? Like what's the stat? Like 84% of shit that goes into somebody's house gets lost, whatever that number is. That's what's going to happen. That's the 10, 60, 30. 10% is like, we'll take it and run with it. 60% will do something different. 30% won't do shit. That's left to our own accord. So it's all right. How committed are you to this? Well, we're really committed. Okay, well then I'm going to do a prep call with your managers to let them know what's coming. They're going to take the training actually beforehand. They're going to go through the online shit. I can always tell when a company's going to actually get the most out of this, because we usually give people access to our online content, the managers. We have a prep call and a kickoff about 2 to 3 weeks before we kick it off for the reps. And I give all the managers access to the videos. And I say, go through those videos, and then we'll come together again about a week beforehand to answer questions, talk about reinforcement, coaching, and all that other stuff. And I can always tell when a company is going to get the most out of this training versus the ones that don't. The ones that don't are easy to spot. Nobody logs into the portal. Nobody watches the videos. They don't have any questions on that second meeting. And I'm not like, I don't give it, you know what I mean? Like ultimately I care, but I don't care that much. You're not my kids. You're not my company. You're paying the bill. You know what I mean? So I give a shit as much as you give a shit. But if you don't give a shit, I'll take your money. I don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Like throw it at me. Like, cool. And by the way, I ask this question to leaders a lot because I fit right in the middle ground. I don't know where you guys are, but I fit right in the middle ground of like caring enough in the sense that I'm not $2,000, that's a throwaway and who cares, put that on your credit card so nobody cares. But I'm also not like the Miller Hyman of, $1 million rollouts and that type of stuff. Like when that happens, you have executive buy-in, you have people stuffing it down people's throats, you have coaching, the whole thing. I'm in the 30, 40, 50 grand range, which is just enough to say I've invested in my team, but not enough to actually care about the follow-up. So I've come to that, I've come to that religion. And I say to executives a lot of time when they ask about ROI and all this, I'm like, just shut up with your ROI conversation. I'm like, please, fine. You want ROI of this training? Great. What are your current conversion ratios to your tier 1 accounts using email techniques to the executive? Like, what's that conversion ratio right there? Tell me that number and I'll tell you.
You don't know shit. And they don't know shit.
They don't know shit. Can we just be square here? Why are you making this investment? Is half of it just to basically show that you've made the investment in your team? And then they almost all of them go, then shut up about your ROI.
Yeah. Speaking of ROI, guys, we're getting to the end of the show, but we got a fucking storm coming now. And, I'm sure you guys have been through a few rifts yourselves. And, people are going to start cutting budgets and
already are.
Well, even more. Yeah. And then now it's like, all right, we got to look at Coinbase. We grew too fast. Okay. Oops. So I know. So number one, what are you seeing out there? Number two, you got any advice for these? I know you don't want to, you're not in the leader coaching business, but
no, I do.
Some people are going to have to get cut here. And unfortunately, you got some of these new startups that say, I really like that guy. I'm going to keep him. I'm going to get rid of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think this is going to go back to, I think what everybody needs to do right now is recenter a little bit on what's important to them, their values, their why, all that stuff. Look, we're headed into a downturn. Who gives a shit? Like this, I've been through 3 massive ones in my career already, and this is going to be no different. You know what I mean? It might be slightly different, whatever. But one thing for me is, the reason I speak about this is because I've literally just gone through it recently. Like, about a year and a half ago, my dad passed away, and it kind of threw me for a loop, not because he passed. Like I had a great relationship with my dad. He was, 82 years old. So it's not like he was young, but he shouldn't have died because it was a bad thing. But what threw me for a loop was the fact that I got ripped out of my business for about 4 or 5 weeks. And for the first time, I wasn't working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, driving revenue, all that stuff. And when I came back, the company was running like a drum. Like everything was fucking rock solid. Clients were happy, revenue was there. And I was like, holy shit, yay, but where does that leave me? Like what value? My value was directly tied to driving revenue to build this, being the number 1 revenue generator. And my CEO abilities were me sitting in my hot tub, stoned off my ass, calling my chief growth officer, being like, hey, try this out. I don't know. I'll see you I'll be in Japan tomorrow. See you later. Right. That was the extent of it. And so for the past year or so, I've just been kind of wandering and not lost, but just looking for purpose again and those type of things. And so I decided to kind of reset on my personal why, my personal values. And I did it early in my career, and it couldn't have been more helpful because that is what I call your decision stack. So if you are clear of your why and your core values, okay, and what your priorities are based on the new world order, wherever we're at, then when decisions come up, you line it up against that and say, does it align? If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Because I always say, if you and I have core values, if we're on the same page with core values, we can argue until the cows come home, but we're going to both come to, we might agree to disagree, but we'll come to a place of, all right, cool, we're good. But if you and I have different core values, we're just going to argue. So my recommendation for reps right now in organizations, first of all, reps are looking for purpose. The good ones are looking for more than just a commission check. So you better get your shit together as far as your why and your values. And I would scream those from the mountaintop. And by the way, this isn't just an exercise to put your stupid mission statement up on your website and feel good about it. Live it, right? And profess it and tell people, hire based on those values. Right now, if you're a rep, because guess what? If you hire based on core values and reps join because of core values and you paint a good vision for them, they'll stick through. The good ones will stick through the downturns. Okay. But if they don't, they'll bail as fast as possible. On the other hand, reps, if you don't know what your values are, if you don't know what your why is, you're just going to go around kind of popping and, because it's a hot company, it seems like they're going to get paid good commissions, and you're just going to churn and burn. And you will be one of those reps right now that gets their head cut off because you're just looking for, you chased Coinbase. You made you jumped to some bullshit company that was super hot because you went to Zoom, for instance, because like, give me a fucking break. Selling for Zoom for the past 2 years. I mean, they're a sponsor of ours and I love them to death, but last year, do you think it was really that hard to sell Zoom, for crying out loud? Like, please. And so now all those reps are like struggling. The ones who chase the money, right? Now they're all struggling and they're probably going to get fired. But if they had the good values and they chose Zoom for the right reasons, because they believed in Zoom's mission, they did, believed in Zoom's values and all that other stuff, I guarantee you those are the ones Zoom's going to keep, even if you weren't crushing your number, quote unquote.
Wouldn't you say it's back to passion? If you're doing something you're passionate about and you love, you're probably safe. And if you're not happy, look out.
You're not fucking safe. What the fuck are you talking about?
Safer. You're safer if you've been able to apply that and you've been able to show it. The way you show up, the way you know what I mean? Like you're on screen in the Zoom sessions, you're asking questions to your managers, you're reaching out to executives that are not your direct line, frontline managers, getting a better understanding of the business. You know what I mean? You push your executives on not living those values and those whys because, you can hold them accountable. If you're that type of passion, then shit, yeah, man, you're not. If
that passion means you're in the top 5% of sales, okay, I hear you. Anything else, it's like, see you later.
Yeah. Depends. I mean, it depends on who your frontline manager is. That's the number one dictator of people who are staying or leaving.
So John, sell me on your book, man. Plug it. What do you got?
Yeah. So everybody's asking me when I'm going to write a book, and I feel like a bit of a hypocrite because I don't read much. And I was a state school kid, drank my way through 4 years of college. But and I also think most books are bullshit because they're like 20% of most books are legit, but they have to fill it with the other 80% so they can get it to 200 pages so it can sell it for $24.99.
The editor, yeah.
So I like blogs. I didn't want to just write a book. And plus, what hasn't been written about sales, right? So like, what the hell new am I going to? So I decided instead to go back. And let's tie this to why. My why is to elevate the profession of sales, because I genuinely believe that when sales is done right, it's the greatest profession in the world. When done wrong, it's one of the worst. And I try to do that through my training, but it's almost like I'm catching kids too late because most kids fall into sales. What I want to do is I want to introduce sales as a career to kids, because when you tell your kid you're a doctor, a lawyer, whatever it is, they have context. They see that on TV, they understand it. When you tell your kid you're in sales, they're like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. And most people's perception is super negative. And so what I did was my daughter, the other thing is I was traveling so much that I was a weekend dad basically. And I was trying to get my daughter to understand a little bit more and somehow stay connected with her. So one year she was selling Girl Scout cookies and she came and said, "Hey daddy, I have a link where you can share. I know you have a big social media following. Could you share this on your social profile?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Why not?" I'm like, "First of all, that's my network that I've worked my ass off to get. And second of all, why would they buy from you compared to any other kid selling them Girl Scout cookies?" She's like, "All right, well, what do I need to do?" And I was like, "You need to come up with a pitch." So we came up with a little video of her pitching her cookies and I did a blog post on it. Next year, we were going door to door. So I taught her objection handling, did a blog post on it. And it evolved to this book called I Want to Be in Sales When I Grow Up. And it's her journey of understanding what the true essence of sales is all about. Right. And I always tell people this, it is not about sales. If you think sales is about convincing anybody of something, you are doing it wrong. Sales is about helping people solve problems or achieve goals, period. That's it. And if your problems aren't big enough, your goals aren't big enough, why are we having this conversation? And so if you have that context of this is a noble profession, if done right, you don't have to screw people to make money, and kids look at it as a profession, well, maybe when they get out of high school, they don't have to go into $400,000 worth of debt to get a $40,000 a year fucking job and realize that too late and then get into sales and get the shit kicked out of them because they got a territory and a quota and say, good luck. They could actually maybe say, hey, instead of going to college, maybe I go sell some shit. Maybe I make some money first, understand the business world a little bit here, and then decide to go to college if I really want to, right? Those are the type of things. So that's why I wrote this book. And by the way, last thing here is I want to get more women into sales, which is why it's based on my daughter. I think women are some of the best sales professionals on the planet. And last but not least, I don't make any money on it. So it's 100% of the profits go to charity. So my daughter does not actually want to be in sales when she grows up. She actually wants to be a veterinarian. So all profits go to the World Wildlife Fund, try to save a few animals here. And we gave a check for $25,000 last year to the World Wildlife Fund, which is pretty damn cool.
Woohoo. Damn. John, you taking any new clients?
Always, my friend. Oh, the right one.
How do they get hold of you?
Yeah, easy is, jbarrows.com. My email is john@jbarrows, JBARROWS.com. For reps out there, though, the best way, LinkedIn, and this is going to sound like a humble brag. It kind of is, but it's true. I've reached the 30,000 connection limit on LinkedIn, so I can't accept any more connections. But you can follow me on LinkedIn. But the best way to get in touch with me is actually Instagram. So Instagram handle is John, JOHN, M as in Michael, Barrows. That's where I do free consulting. So if any reps have any questions about anything, they can hit me up on Instagram. I'll get right back to them. So those are some ways that people can get a hold of me here.
You're wicked smart.
Wicked smart kid. It's pissa. Go Celtics.
John, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate this. A fun conversation. I like it when I can let loose a little bit and not have to.
Of course. On behalf of Jamie, Justin, KG, and myself, Pete, we thank you for listening. If you like what you heard today, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm just telling you, the algorithms really love it when you hit that little bell and subscribe. It'll take 30 people from learning about SaaS to 3,000. We'd like to say thanks to our Patreon supporter for supporting our content. It's a real ego boost. Please give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. KG, you know anything about Brent Keltner? He's got a masterclass.
I've heard it's a masterful masterclass.
I'm telling you, if you got a challenge for training and enablement, stuck in the old product-driven model, the even bigger challenge is changing the product-driven mindset. Your solution is Brent Keltner's Revenue Acceleration Playbook Masterclass with sales and marketing expert Brent Keltner. request a free 60-minute growth consultation at winalytics.com. We'd also like to thank Aaron J. and Trent S. Hey, let's not forget about Ironman. Unlock key account growth with Demand Farm Smart Software to bring account planning and relationship intelligence into your CRM, making key account management practice data-driven, predictable, and scalable. Request a demo now at demandfarm.com. Ask for Ironman. Hey, recruiters, you're looking for a good software manager? We got a good one here. 10 years. I don't know what these acronyms are, but there's a NOJS in there. Check it out. Email Pete at SaasHoles.net if you're interested. All right, guys, thank you for listening. Cue the non-copyrighted music.